VTI versus VOO. What is the big difference between these two great ETFs? You know, many people have talked about these two great ETFs because, one, they have a great exposure to the broad market, making it a great base for your portfolio. Two, it's got a great expense ratio, making it one of the cheaper ETFs to hold in your portfolio. And three, why not just pick one ETF instead of picking like tons and tons of ETFs to make a solid portfolio? Now, in this video, we're going to break down why these two ETFs are great and what is my choice at the end of this video. Hey guys, my name is Steve and I run the Frugal Expat website where we try to help people to save more, invest better, and to travel more. And who doesn't like that? Now, if you like this type of content and you like this video, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll continue to create more content to help you do better in saving, investing, and even traveling. Now, today we're going to be talking about two great ETFs, like I said, in VTI and VOO. So let's first break down VTI. VTI is one of my favorite ETFs. First of all, it has this broad exposure to the entire market. That means it holds every single stock in the entire market, which is over 3,600 different stocks. Now that's going to be large cap, it's going to be mid cap, and it's going to be small cap companies. Now it is market weighted, so the larger companies that have a larger weight within the stock market are going to have a larger weight within this ETF. Now the good thing about this ETF, it has a low expense ratio of 0.03%, meaning it's going to cost you $3 for every $10,000 invested. Now, one of the great things about this ETF is you have a broad diversification. That means when you're talking about, you got some ETFs that are just dividend ETFs, you got some ETFs that are growth ETFs, and you got some ETFs that kind of get a big portion of like large cap stocks. It doesn't just have a large cap or small cap or growth companies, it's got them all. And like John Bogle said, why pick the needle in the haystack when you can pick the entire haystack? It's so hard to find the best stocks or best ETFs out there, and VTI just makes it easy. It has all of them, and that is a great thing when you're looking at creating a portfolio. Now, if you don't want to do any of the research, well, VTI has done it all. You know, you just pick one and you just go. Now, if you're looking at trying to diversify and having a large exposure to all of these things, VTI solves that problem. If you want to pick just one and not really do any of the research, and you're just trying to create a great portfolio that performs over and over and over and doesn't give you any headaches, VTI answers those questions. Over the last 100 years, the stock market has averaged around 10% annually, and that is great news because if you're trying to create a portfolio and try to outperform the market, well, that could be harder said than done. So why not just pick one that kind of tracks the market all in all, and that could be VTI. Now, VTI does have some volatility issues because sometimes with it having exposure to the small caps, it may dip a little bit more than some other ones like VOO, which only is large cap companies. But don't fret, we're going to take a look at VOO and see if we should own that one instead. So let's take a look at VOO. Now, VOO tracks the S&P 500, which means it has the top 500 companies on the US stock market. Those are mostly large cap stocks, and those are the top 500 companies. So if you are wanting to have just a piece of the top 500 companies, VOO could be that ETF. Now, it does not have any small cap companies or mid cap companies, so if you're looking for exposure to some other sectors, you could pick up some other ETFs. Like AVUV is a great small cap ETF that you could add to VOO to get that a little bit more exposure to those small caps. Now, one of the great things about VOO is the expense ratio. It is the same as VTI, so you only pay $3 for every $10,000 invested. That's the expense ratio of 0.03%. Now, with exposure to those large cap companies, you're going to have a little bit less volatility than VTI because it won't have those small caps that could go up and down. But if your large caps do go down and VTI's got a little bit more diversification, then you're going to have a backup plan and you may see some dips. But, with everything, not everything just continues to go up and up. That's why there's an average of 10% going in that stock market. You'll have years that dip, like in 2022 when the S&P 500 dipped 19%. Both VTI and VOO did dip, and that's just part of it. And every year they just continue to go up and down, and that's the way the market works. Now, we are not looking at just past returns, meaning that future returns are going to be the same, because we don't know what is going to happen in the future. In the future, small caps could be outrunning the large caps, and that's happened in the past as well, but we do not know. But what we can know is that as these companies are coming together, we can tell that some of these performances have been a little bit similar. So let's take a look at VTI versus VOO in their performance. So if we're taking a look at some of these performances, let's take a look at this performance in the last year. As we can see, they have been doing kind of similar. It's kind of amazing to look as they both go up. They both have similar the top 500 companies, and VOO has a larger percentage of those companies in their portfolio, and we can see that they're both around 24% over that last year. Now, if we look at 5 years, we can see that VOO probably was doing a little bit better than VTI, and you can see that as it goes after that dip in 2019 or in 2022. Also, you can see a little bit of a dip that they're just kind of going side to side, and that's a great thing if we're looking and trying to choose which ETF to go with. And as you can see at the end, you can see that VOO has outperformed VTI in the long term in this last 5 years, just because you got growth stocks, you got AI stocks that have done really well, and Nvidia is one of their top 3 holdings, and that's just one of those things that you're looking at. Now, if we look at 10 years, you can tell that, like I said, VOO has done more outperformance than VTI, but it's been kind of marginal. It's just a little bit. We can see at the 1 year mark, it's hard to choose which one is the best because they're both kind of similar. And if you look at this 10-year mark, VOO at the end of this 10 years has done a little bit better, which could mean maybe you want to choose VOO over VTI. But those are just a 10-year comparison. So let's kind of break down kind of a VTI versus VOO in kind of their breakdowns of their portfolios. If we're looking at VTI right here, it is a large blend. It's got the expense ratio of 0.03%. And as we come down, kind of taking a look at kind of the performance over the last kind of years, and we can see, 1 year is 23.71%, 3 years is 7.89% because you had that drop and that dip in 2022, but then 5 years kind of brings out to 13.81%, and the 10 years 12.50%. That's a great return if you're thinking about it, because if the market is averaging around 10% per year and you're getting 12.5%, that's great. Now, if we look at kind of the portfolio breakdown, we're going to see that the composition is a blend of large value and large growth companies, and mid and small caps aren't making as much of a headway as it does with other companies. And so you're seeing that the large cap are doing a great majority of the pool in this VTI. Now, let's look at these sector breakdowns. We can see that, look at it, you got telecommunications is down too, but technology is making up 33% of this portfolio, with consumer discretionary making almost 15%. Now, if we go down and look at these holdings, we can see that, Apple is 6.65% with Microsoft right behind it. Nvidia also making like 5.5%. And this just makes up the top 10 of the holdings, with, Google and Berkshire Hathaway making that bottom. And if you look at kind of VOO is going to be a little bit similar. So let's take a look at VOO. All right, so VOO is a little bit similar when we're breaking down this portfolio. Like I said, it's a large blend. It's got a similar expense ratio of 0.03%. And if we kind of look at the performance of this ETF, we're going to see it's going to be a little bit better than VTI, like we saw in the performance. And as we can see, the 1 year is 24.94%, the 3 years is 8.91%, 5 years 14.49%, with the 10-year being 13.06%. Now, one of the reasons that is because it's only got 500 different companies. VTI's got 3,600 plus companies with some small caps and mid caps, and we can tell when we take a look at their portfolios. Let's go down to their portfolio. Like I said, it's got 504 companies. It's got a blend of large value and growth. These are all large cap companies. As we can tell, look at these technology. Technology is a little bit less than VTI, but as we can tell when we're looking at these holdings, Apple, instead of making that 6.59%, it's making 7.59%. It's got 500 companies. It's market weighted, so it has to have a little bit more juice within these holdings. Nvidia is actually a little bit higher than Microsoft on VOO versus VTI, which is interesting. And you can see, like I said, Google and Berkshire Hathaway are making the bottom 2 of this top 10. Now, these companies, like I said, you're looking at them, Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Tesla, and Google. These are all tech focused companies. So if the tech sector does fall, you'll see a dip in both VTI and VOO. When we're looking at these two great ETFs by Vanguard, we're taking a look at two amazing ETFs that you can make a great portfolio at. VOO has just large cap, so you can kind of add some different ETFs to kind of create a better portfolio with AVUV or a similar small cap ETF. You can also add some growth. You can add some other different sectors into that. Maybe you want a dividend ETF like SCHD. With VTI, you're going to already have some of this small cap and mid cap exposure, which makes a easy diversification. If you're looking at making like maybe a 3-fund portfolio with VTI, maybe you'll add a bond or an international fund. A part of that, VTI would be a great one to have the exposure to the entire U.S. stock market. Now, if it's my choice, and my choice was at the when I started to invest, was VTI. I just didn't know much about investing at that time, and I was looking for kind of a all like one and all fits all. And I was reading J.L. Collins' book, The Simple Path to Wealth, which talks about VTSAX, which is basically the index fund version of VTI. And so I decided, if I'm going to have a great ETF to kind of build my portfolio around it, I'm just going to choose VTI. And at that point, that's what I chose, and I continue to invest in it every single month, and that is just something I like to do. Now, I usually suggest this ETF to most people because most investors aren't looking at creating a portfolio and doing a DIY. They want like one easy hold and forget, buy and hold. And VTI just makes sense when you're buying and holding. You're just getting exposure to everything. But for those people that want to kind of dabble and do other things with their portfolios, VOO is a great ETF. It's got a larger exposure. It's got a little bit better portfolio performance compared to VTI, and you can add some of those additional sectors and additional factors into that investment portfolio. So those are just a couple of different things about these two great ETFs. Let me know in the comments which ETF you like. Do you like VOO? Do you like VTI? Which one do you hold in your portfolio, and why do you like them? So that's just a little bit about these two ETFs, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll continue to create more content to help you out. All right, see you later.